Today the wealthy lady was engrossed in shopping at a luxury fashion store. Just as she stepped out of the door, she became the target of a sniper. The assassin aimed directly at her head, but because a female employee in front moved, the employee was hit by the bullet instead. Fortunately, the lady's personal bodyguard reacted in time, quickly shielding her. At that moment, the fountain in the square suddenly erupted, creating a water curtain that obstructed the sniper's view. Immediately after, a man wearing glasses appeared and protected the lady. Seeing that the assassination plan had failed, the assassin switched to using a machine gun, aiming at a puddle of gasoline to cause an explosion that would kill the lady. However, all his actions were seen through by the man. Taking advantage of the fountain's eruption once more, the man pulled the lady toward her car. Being the car of a wealthy lady, its bulletproof capabilities were excellent. In the end, the two safely left the city center for a peaceful countryside. It was then that the lady continued asking the man who he was. The man stammered, saying he was just a passerby. He said that he just incidentally saw her being attacked and decided to save her. Of course, Won-soo didn't believe this explanation. However, given the circumstances, she had no choice but to pretend to trust him. Shortly after the man finished repairing the car, he even discovered a tracking device hidden on it. Upon seeing this, he made an excuse, saying they were being tracked so they could not return to the city just yet. However, Won-soo wasn't easily fooled. She asked to borrow his phone to gauge his reaction. When she tried to call the police, Do-yoon made another excuse. He said there were insiders within the police, preventing her from doing so. He then took Won-soo to his house. Contrary to her thought, Do-yoon's house wasn't luxurious at all. It was quite modest with ordinary furnishings. It looked much like any regular home. What really put Won-soo at ease was that Do-yoon handed her his phone. He even allowed her to freely contact her family. He then left her alone in the living room and went to take a shower. This action indicated he had no intention of holding her captive. 10 minutes later, Do-yoon came out with his body still wet. His muscular body made Won-soo feel a bit vibrated. Noticing his wound was still untreated, she willingly approached him to help bandage it. It had been many years since Won-soo had gotten this close to a man other than her husband. However, contrary to what Won-soo might have thought, Do-yoon was only polite when handed her a damp cloth to clean the dirt from her face. His gentlemanly and considerate actions made them grow closer. When Won-soo heard that Do-yoon wanted to take her to the embassy, she suddenly felt a strange sense of disappointment. Shortly after, the vice president of the company, who was also Won-soo's husband, also arrived at the embassy. Yet, no matter what Young-guk asked, Won-soo still maintains a cold attitude. It wasn't until the head of the security team inquired about a witness that Won-soo started to react internally. Unfortunately, by that time, the team leader had arrived too late. After completing his statement, Do-yoon quietly left. But when the team leader saw the signature on the report, he was shocked. It turned out that Do-yoon was not only a junior in his security unit, but also talent he had long wanted to recruit. In fact, the two had arranged to meet just 2 days earlier. Now they meet themselves together in an assassination case. The coincidence was difficult to explain. Meanwhile, despite her husband's objections, Won-soo held a press conference. Facing the media, she firmly stated that she had been targeted by hostile forces because of her charitable work. However, she wasn't afraid and was determined to continue pursuing her ideals. This move successfully captured public attention. Yet both Young-guk and the chairwoman, Won-soo's mother-in-law, were furious. The mother-in-law even smashed the TV and harshly criticized Won-soo. The next day, Won-soo with her husband attended a family event together. They were quite famous in high society because Young-guk was not only the heir to the conglomerate, but also considered the ideal husband by many Korean women. On the other hand, Won-soo was not only a golf champion, but also a well-known philanthropist. Even a certain tribal chief had donated 500 billion won to her. However, halfway through the event, Young-guk's younger sister-in-law gave him a sly wink, and the two quietly left the venue together. Despite the security team leader's attempt to intervene, Young-guk claimed he only needed 5 minutes. But just 3 minutes later, the son of Young-guk's brother came up to Won-soo, saying he missed his mother and was sleepy. Reluctantly, Won-soo went outside to search for. The security team leader wanted to stop her but couldn't. He had no choice but to assign a new bodyguard to follow her, fearing the conglomerate's lady might lose control. However, the area was home to families from the conglomerate. The bodyguards could only stand watch outside. When Won-soo stepped into the room, the atmosphere made her felt heated. As she turned on the lights, she was confronted with an intimate scene between her husband and her younger sister-in-law. When her younger sister-in-law tried to explain, Won-soo simply replied that they shouldn't have been caught. This implied that she knew her husband was dating many other women. But the younger sister-in-law stubbornly asked if Won-soo had known for a long time. Won-soo didn't directly respond. Instead, she expressed her pure anger at their inability to discern the situation. There were many reporters outside. Didn't they care about the family's reputation? But now was not the time for explanations, as the party had entered the dancing portion. Faced with her husband's dirty hand, Won-soo placed her hand on it without hesitation. Amidst the admiring applause of the guests, the couple smiled and stepped onto the dance floor. They performed a model couple's dance. After the party concluded, Won-soo rang the doorbell of her mother-in-law's room. As expected, her younger sister-in-law opened the door. Facing her mother-in-law, the chairwoman of the conglomerate, the difference in power between the two women was evident from their standing positions. The mother-in-law firmly ordered her younger sister-in-law to leave. Although the younger sister-in-law was reluctant, she complied. With only the two of them left, Won-soo stopped pretending. She turned and walked straight to the bar to pour herself a drink. In anger, her mother-in-law threw a newspaper at her. Won-soo immediately retaliated by throwing her wine glass and all the other glasses on the bar to the floor. Seeing this, her mother-in-law became extremely furious. Won-soo asked her what the problem was and urged her to speak up quickly. The mother replied that she had heard Won-soo knew about the affair between her sister-in-law and Young-guk. Won-soo retorted that the mother already knew that, didn't she? It turned out that the sister-in-law had been arranged by the mother-in-law to seduce Young-guk, with the aim of making Won-soo discover it. After that, she would propose a divorce, at which point the mother would rely on the prenuptial agreement to gain full control of the subsidiary conglomerate. Before passing away, the former chairman had entrusted the most valuable subsidiary to Won-soo. Now, even if the mother-in-law wanted to take anything from the subsidiary, she would need Won-soo's consent. However, despite the calm exterior, Won-soo could only drown her sorrows in alcohol in private. She even ordered all the bodyguards to leave. As she staggered from the effects of the drink, the new bodyguard Do-yoon appeared just in time. Due to the significant difference in their statuses, Won-soo did not want Do-yoon to touch her. However, when she entered the elevator, it seemed that Do-yoon had no intention of following her. But just as the elevator doors were closing, Won-soo pressed the button to open them again and gestured for him to come inside. Reluctantly, Do-yoon followed her upstairs. He accompanied Won-soo to her room. Whether Won-soo was being intentional or was genuinely drunk, she dropped everything while looking for her room key. Seeing this, Do-yoon had no choice but to lean her against the wall and pick up the key card for her. At that moment, Won-soo suddenly exclaimed whether she should just sleep with him tonight. When Do-yoon didn't respond, she had to invite him again, asking if he wanted to sleep with her. Frustrated by Do-yoon's indifferent attitude, Won-soo stepped into the room, disappointed. She then pretended to stumble to lure Do-yoon inside. However, the key card accidentally fell outside. At the same time, Won-soo's husband, increasingly irritated, then decided to go knock on Won-soo's door while drunk. In that moment, the bodyguard had helped Won-soo lean against the wall. For a brief instant, they gazed into each other's eyes intensely. Just as they were about to cross the line, her husband suddenly knocked on the door. Fortunately, their clothes were still intact. Do-yoon was about to open the door when Won-soo pulled him back and signaled for him to be quiet. Her husband quickly noticed the key card on the floor. When he was about to pick it up, the head of the bodyguards suddenly appeared and picked the room key up. After helping Young-guk with the key card, the head of the bodyguards stood in front of the door to block her husband from entering. Watching Young-guk leave, the head of the bodyguards turned around and slipped the key card into the crack of the door. It was uncertain whether he had discovered the secret between the two. A moment later, Won-soo was sitting on the bed in her pajamas while the bodyguard stepped out of the room. However, his clothes were still neat and tidy. The next day, they had to return to South Korea. Won-soo and Do-yoon didn't communicate at all, not even glancing at each other. As the wife of a top conglomerate, their main villa is located on the mountainside. Just driving from the main gate to the main villa took over 10 minutes. As a new bodyguard, the head of the bodyguards not only arranged for Do-yoon to stay in the basement closest to the stairs, but also appointed him as Won-soo's personal bodyguard. It was unclear whether this was intentional or coincidental. While he was packing his belongings, Do-yoon accidentally dropped his photo frame, which contained a memory card. At that moment, he recalled when his friend was dying and managed to utter 2 words: the photo. Could this be the reason his friend was harmed? Do-yoon hurriedly plugged the memory card into his computer. Inside, there were only 3 videos. He casually opened one of the videos. It was the surveillance footage of the estate. After fast-forwarding the video, a man appeared. It was the former chairman of the conglomerate. The circumstances surrounding the former chairman's death were questionable, which is why Do-yoon's friend had been killed because of this footage. After discovering her husband's infidelity, Won-soo remained calm when meeting his mistress. It turned out Won-soo had known about the affair since the first time the woman brought her child over. The first time Won-soo met her younger sister-in-law was shortly after their wedding. From that point, Won-soo had to endure and give birth to a son for Young-guk. If their son hadn't died in a skiing accident, their relationship wouldn't have become so distant. However, Won-soo had underestimated underestimated her younger sister-in-law's determination to seize her position. Not only did Won-soo fail to persuade her younger sister-in-law to live abroad, but she also uncovered a significant secret. Her younger sister-in-law asked Won-soo if she knew why Young-guk married her. Won-soo and Young-guk met while doing charity work, so she always thought they had fallen in love at first sight. However, her younger sister-in-law revealed that at that time, Young-guk was not only dating her, but also had a public girlfriend. However, the other girlfriend died of drug shock. As a result, Young-guk was forced to go to Africa to pursue Won-soo, who was known as the Angel of Charity, in an effort to restore his reputation. What surprised her younger sister-in-law was that after hearing all of this, Won-soo showed no signs of shock or distress. The younger sister-in-law asked Won-soo if she intended to get a divorce, but of course, Won-soo would not let her get her wish easily. The younger sister-in-law was not satisfied, so she went to her mother-in-law and told her everything. After listening, the mother-in-law fell silent in thought. After all, she had intentionally brought her daughter-in-law and her child back to the country, not to preserve the family line, but to drive Won-soo away. Now that her plan had failed, she kicked her daughter-in-law out and called her lawyer. After confirming the child's blood relation to the family, the mother-in-law immediately instructed the lawyer to arrange for a family photo session, stating that she would finalize everything the next day. The next day, the location for the family photo was thoroughly prepared. Won-soo felt a wave of sadness while getting her makeup done. No one around her could help, and at that moment, all she wanted was someone to confide in. Upon arriving at the photo session, she saw the boy sitting on a chair and quickly realized the situation. The mother-in-law wanted the younger sister-in-law and her child to be recognized as official members of the family. Won-soo turned to look at her husband and saw him gazing at her with a smug expression. Then she went to question her mother-in-law. Could it be that just because she didn't allow her to use the group's money, she had to make family matters public like that? Unexpectedly, the mother-in-law shifted the conversation to Won-soo's deceased son. She said that Won-soo had chosen not to announce the news of their son's death. Instead, she told everyone that he was studying abroad. Now the mother-in-law claimed it was the perfect time to replace him. The words of the mother-in-law made Won-soo feel disgusted. She wanted the child to be recognized by their ancestors. She also wanted Won-soo to become the child's mother. No matter what, family photos still had to be taken today. Helpless, Won-soo could only sit down in front of the camera with a sorrowful expression. What fueled Won-soo's determination to resist was that her mother-in-law had placed the child in her late son's room. She even instructed the housekeeper to throw away everything her son had used. Although Won-soo just wanted to be alone, the pain and anger drove her to drive at high speed. As soon as she stepped out the door, she almost caused an accident. Fortunately, the bodyguard, Do-yoon, arrived just in time. Without saying a word, he got into the car. Despite Won-soo's demands for him to get out, he pretended not to hear her. His duty was to protect Won-soo. Won-soo insisted that she just wanted to be alone. Do-yoon replied that she could just pretend he wasn't there, and it was just her here. It can say that their relationship was more than just that of a madam and a bodyguard. Won-soo had no choice but to compromise. In fact, nothing happened that night. However, after he rejected her 3 times in one evening, Won-soo wanted to fire Do-yoon. Reluctantly, Do-yoon revealed his purpose. He explained that his friend had been murdered a few months ago. The killer was the one who attempted to assassinate Won-soo the day before. Although the assassination failed, the assailant would definitely not give up. So Do-yoon chose to protect Won-soo, primarily to seek revenge for his friend. He told Won-soo to stay by his side from now on. He would protect her. Now Do-yoon had kept his promise. But when he saw Won-soo brushing the sand off her feet, he suddenly squatted down to help her wipe them clean with a handkerchief. This action clearly crossed a line. So when she regained her composure, Won-soo immediately reminded Do-yoon to stick to his duties as a bodyguard. Today, Won-soo did not want to go back to her in-laws' house but to a villa in the mountains. However, as soon as they stopped the car, they saw Won-soo's husband inside. At that moment, Young-guk also noticed the closeness between the two. So as soon as Won-soo walked through the door, Young-guk unexpectedly expressed his desire to have another child with her. He even said that he loved her. However, Won-soo of course rejected him. She stated that even sweet words needed to consider the circumstances and timing. His actions were nothing short of self-inflicted humiliation. Seeing this, Young-guk even tried to force Won-soo. Do-yoon, when witnessing the scene, rushed in to restrain Young-guk. This action was not allowed. Young-guk was the vice president of the corporation. Do-yoon was just a bodyguard. He had no right to intervene in their marital conflict. Fortunately, Won-soo quickly said she wanted to leave. This prevented Do-yoon from being beaten by Young-guk. However, after this incident, Young-guk clearly showed his jealousy toward Do-yoon. With nowhere else to go, Won-soo had to return to her in-laws' house. After a night of deep reflection, she finally made a bold decision. She wanted to spread rumors that the vice president had another woman and a 10-year-old son. The next day, Won-soo's mother-in-law mother-in-law discovered that Do-yoon was a strong opponent when they sparred in judo. This was the first time she had lost to someone else. Ever before, no matter how strong a young man was, he had never been able to withstand even one strike from her. Because this mother-in-law possessed top-level judo skills in South Korea, this result amazed all the other bodyguards. Unexpectedly, that the chairwoman to be anything but angry. Instead, she gestured for Do-yoon to come closer. Looking at the expressions of the other bodyguards, it was clear that Do-yoon was not the first bodyguard to be harassed by her. Do-yoon didn't care about this. He immediately pushed her away. However, this only made her more amused. She requested that Do-yoon practice with her regularly. After chasing the assistant out, she couldn't keep from sniffing the fragrance on Do-yoon's sleeve. However, her joyful mood instantly vanished when she saw a particular photo. The woman wearing the same outfit as her in the photo was none other than her daughter-in-law, Won-soo, and coincidentally, Do-yoon was also Won-soo's personal bodyguard. Before she could take down Do-yoon, her assistant rushed in with urgent news. This new information shocked her even more than discovering the matching outfits. It revealed that her eldest son was having an affair and that the identity of his illegitimate child had been exposed. Now it was too late to cover it up. The house was surrounded by reporters. Seeing this, Won-soo's husband quickly turned the car around and left. Just as Won-soo predicted, the first person her younger sister-in-law turned to for help was her. The younger sister-in-law insisted that Won-soo quickly handle the situation. She even wanted Won-soo to hold a press conference to admit that she was not the one stealing someone else's husband. Won-soo appeared uninterested as she listened to her younger sister-in-law. At that moment, her mother-in-law called Won-soo in to discuss a solution. However, the younger sister-in-law quickly rushed in before her. She even casually sat down in a chair, prompting the mother-in-law to immediately order her to leave. The sister-in-law questioned why her mother-in-law was kicking her out. Before leaving, she also advised her mother-in-law to let Won-soo hold a press conference. After getting rid of the sister-in-law, the lawyer advised them to remain silent. He said that time could blur everything. However, Won-soo would not sit back and allow them to execute their plan. She released this news not only because her mother-in-law wanted the child to be recognized by the family, but also because she wanted Won-soo to be the child's mother. Therefore, as soon as Won-soo stepped out of her mother-in-law's room, she instructed her assistant to arrange a press conference. The time was set for the following day. However, the assistant was also a subordinate of her mother-in-law. The next day, when all the reporters were settled, the mother-in-law took Won-soo to meet other socialites. Fortunately, the bodyguard had prepared everything in advance. When Won-soo made an excuse to go to the restroom, Do-yoon quickly took her to the press conference. At the same time, the mother-in-law learned that Won-soo had left. She hurriedly turned on the TV. To her surprise, she saw Won-soo answering questions about the rumors. Won-soo denied the rumors, saying they were not true. This denial immediately caused a stir in the auditorium. Most reporters believed she was lying. However, after Won-soo's next statements, the reporters fell silent. Won-soo explained that the boy everyone was hearing about was actually the son of her late father-in-law. The boy was the child of the former chairman, someone well known to everyone. When the mother-in-law saw this news, she became extremely angry. Meanwhile, Won-soo's husband felt very pleased. However, the one who suffered the most was the younger sister-in-law. Despite having a low IQ, she quickly realized that she had become the mistress of a 70-year-old man, and the mother-in-law had become the Won-soo of the past. Upon returning home, Won-soo ignored her younger sister-in-law's attempts to assert herself. Instead, she directly led her to a row of rooms. Won-soo then sternly warned her that the younger sister-in-law's activities were confined to that room. She was not allowed to join the family meals. This was to ensure that her younger sister-in-law understood her position clearly. Although Won-soo appeared to have achieved a resounding victory, she was suffering internally. Fortunately, her bodyguard followed her during her joggings. Won-soo took this opportunity to share her feelings. It turned out that the reason she did not want a divorce was not due to attachment to her wealthy family's assets. Before his death, the former chairman had asked her to place her fingerprints on a tablet. He pleaded with her to persist until she could use the fingerprint. During this time, no matter what happened, she must not divorce. However, the former chairman did not specify when she could use the fingerprint. Out of respect for the promise made to the deceased, Won-soo insisted on not getting a divorce. After unloading her heart, Won-soo felt much better. However, when her mother-in-law summoned her, her mood turned desperate again. The mother-in-law asked Won-soo if she knew that her mother was being held in an unstable mental hospital. It was a secluded ward. There was no doubt that the only person who could do this was Won-soo's brother. However, it was clear that her mother-in-law was behind this directive. The next day, guided by her brother, Won-soo went to a hospital on the mountain. It seemed that her mother was the only patient there. She was even attended by 3 nurses and 3 guards. As Won-soo walked toward her mother's hospital room, the bodyguard waited outside. However, the moment Won-soo stepped into the room, room, she let out a piercing scream. Despite their poor financial situation, Won-soo's mother had always forced her to practice golf. To enable her daughter to compete in the United States, she had even taken out loans with exorbitant interest rates. As a result, Won-soo found herself alone in a foreign country. 10 years later, she had gained significant fame in the golf world. However, right after receiving her prize money with her assistant, she was confronted by debt collectors. Her mother had been arrested due to gambling debts. Won-soo felt utterly trapped. In those 10 years, she had earned no less than 10 billion won, but her mother had squandered it all on gambling. After paying off her mother's debts with her prize money, Won-soo decided to cut ties with her mother and pledged to donate all her future earnings. This was until her husband became embroiled in a scandal. He had to travel to Africa to pursue her. Won-soo was hailed as a charity angel, and Yongguk aimed to exploit her to restore his reputation. However, her powerful mother-in-law wouldn't allow Won-soo to have any negative traits. She had secretly collaborated with Won-soo's brother to confine her mother in an unstable psychiatric hospital. Now, with her mother on the brink of death, the mother-in-law revealed the whereabouts of Won-soo's mother to her. When Won-soo finally reunited with her mother, she was already dead. Her mother-in-law had deliberately arranged an important business meeting for the next day to prevent Won-soo from attending her mother's funeral. When Won-soo protested, her mother-in-law threatened her. If the deal failed, Won-soo would end up quietly confined there, just like her mother. After hearing this, Won-soo had no choice but to compromise. As a result, while her brother was cremating their mother, Won-soo was sitting in a luxury hotel with her mother-in-law, performing a play in front of her younger brother-in-law's father-in-law. Accustomed to rising against adversity, Won-soo was not easily subdued. That afternoon, she went to Do-yoon's residence and requested that he take her to her mother's burial. Blinded by love, Do-yoon not only ignored the chairman's prohibitions, but also took off the tracking device in the car. He even suggested turning off his phone. So as soon as they left the villa, the wealthy family was thrown into chaos, and everyone immediately began searching for the two of them. Won-soo and Do-yoon went to her old home to reminisce about the past. Taking this opportunity, Do-yoon embraced Won-soo. This scene was captured by someone and sent to her mother-in-law. Although they did not spend the night outside, as soon as they returned to the villa, the security guard informed Do-yoon that the chairman wanted to see him. Do-yoon knew he had caused trouble, but he felt helpless. As soon as Won-soo and Do-yoon entered, Yongguk beat Do-yoon up and then demanded the team leader fire him. After saying this, he turned to Won-soo and, seeing her unresponsive, became even angrier. Was the most powerful, but the mother-in-law was silent and led the security team captain into the office. She understood that Won-soo would oppose firing Do-yoon, so she instructed the team leader to do whatever Won-soo wanted. This was the cunning nature of the family head. To keep Do-yoon, she even slapped Yongguk. Her real intention was to push Won-soo and Do-yoon beyond their limits, leading to Won-soo's humiliating expulsion from the family. However, she couldn't disclose this goal to Yongguk. Instead, she fabricated a reason, saying her son lacked confidence and was afraid of a bodyguard stealing his wife. She told the team leader to apologize to Do-yoon on Yongguk's behalf. But Won-soo could live under her authority and manage the most valuable corporation, so it's certain that she was not someone to be easily bullied. The next day, Won-soo made just 2 phone calls that successfully completed a cosmetics advertisement. When the commercial was aired widely, the younger brother-in-law and his wife came to find Won-soo and asked her if it was intentional. Turned out that dinner that day, which her mother-in-law arranged with her younger brother-in-law's father-in-law, was to collaborate on the release of a new cosmetics line. However, just a day before the product launch, Won-soo's advertisement unexpectedly took over the airwaves. It attracted all consumers and caused her younger brother-in-law's father's company to incur losses of hundreds of billions of won. At that moment, Yongguk rushed in. The power struggle officially began. The younger brother-in-law asked Won-soo why she did it. Upon hearing her younger brother-in-law address Won-soo as an equal, Yongguk immediately stepped in to protect her. Despite the chaos in his private life, Yongguk did not show spineless when confronted with these issues. His defense of Won-soo frustrated his younger sister-in-law. She immediately revealed a secret of the tycoon family. It turned out that she had initially been engaged to Yongguk. However, due to his scandal, she had to switch to marrying Yongguk's younger brother. It allowed him to join her family. Meanwhile, the younger brother's secret girlfriend wished to become a daughter-in-law of the wealthy family, so she had given birth to Yongguk's child. That was merely the extent of their relationship. If we consider the relationship involving the mother-in-law, it turned out that the younger brother was actually her illegitimate child with a lawyer. Yongguk had known about his mother's relationship for a long time. Seeing Yongguk nearly fight with his younger brother to protect Won-soo made their mother-in-law extremely furious. The next day, after Won-soo completed her charity work, she was followed by a swarm of drones. Fortunately, a deer suddenly appeared on the road. The driver swerved in surprise, causing Won-soo to panic. Do Yoon was dissatisfied, so she switched drivers. With his keen instincts, he noticed something unusual as soon as the drones locked onto their vehicle. Luckily, Do Yoon was an excellent driver. He managed to evade half of the bullets and even used a bridge to destroy 2 drones. However, he was so focused on the air threat that he forgot to pay attention to the surroundings of the car. Suddenly, the vehicle was attacked from the side and underneath. At that moment, the female assassin, who was none other than the close bodyguard of the conglomerate's chairman, also stopped controlling. To ensure Won-soo's death, she approached to check. After confirming that everyone was unconscious, she calmly left. Just as she walked away, Do Yoon unexpectedly regained consciousness. Despite his injuries, he rushed to the back seat to save Won-soo. In the final moment before the car exploded, he shielded her, but shards of debris struck his back, causing him to pass out on top of Won-soo. Fortunately, the metal shard that struck was not deep and did not damage any organs. However, the female bodyguard on the upper floor witnessed the entire incident. A new assassination plan began to form in her mind. When she saw Do Yoon being taken into the intensive care unit, she followed closely behind. As soon as all the nurses left, she intended to kill Do Yoon. Suddenly, Young-guk appeared. However, his gaze was solely fixed on Do Yoon, completely ignoring the presence of the female bodyguard. Young-guk's feelings were complicated as he faced the man who had saved his wife's life twice. The intimacy between Do Yoon and his wife made him uncomfortable. Nevertheless, he left without taking any action. After confirming that there was no one around, the female bodyguard tried to return to kill Do Yoon but noticed a camera directly above her head. With no other options, she had to temporarily abandon her plan. At the same time, the police chief was invited to the conglomerate's mountain villa. The one welcoming him was Lawyer Han, the lover of Won-soo's mother-in-law. However, contrary to the happy face when Won-soo had an accident that Lawyer Han imagined, the chairman was furious. She was angry because someone had overstepped their authority. She ordered the police chief to quickly capture the perpetrator, insisting that no matter the cost, they must sentence the assailant to death. However, it was Lawyer Han who escorted the police chief out. Through vague statements, Lawyer Han intentionally misrepresented the chairman's words, suggesting she wanted to find a scapegoat. He claimed that Won-soo had previously been threatened by an extremist organization, and that the perpetrator this time was certainly connected to that group. Although it was impossible to identify the real culprit through conventional means, Do Yoon was secretly investigating. As soon as he regained consciousness, he went to seek out an old colleague at the police department to request the surveillance footage from the crime scene. Meanwhile, Young-guk was also conducting his own secret investigation. Using his position as the vice president of the conglomerate, he dispatched 50 people to review surveillance cameras overnight. This approach would surely yield better results than Do Yoon's efforts. However, before either of them could uncover the identity of the perpetrator, Won-soo unexpectedly showed up at Do Yoon's dormitory. He asked her why she had come there, pointing out that there were surveillance cameras. Won-soo replied that only the butler could access the surveillance footage, and she was not around. This was the first time they had met since being discharged from the hospital. Won-soo suspected that the chairman of the conglomerate was using her subsidiary to launder money. Therefore, she wanted Do Yoon to help her retrieve the secret documents from Lawyer Han. Their actions indicated that their relationship had grown much closer after the recent events. The next day, through the surveillance cameras, Do Yoon confirmed that Lawyer Han was not home. He went to Lawyer Han's house, but he didn't have the code to open the door. He had no choice but to return to the kitchen to get Lawyer Han's fingerprints from a cup he had used. Coincidentally, there was a carving machine in Do Yoon's dormitory. He quickly created a glove with the fingerprints. After that, he successfully broke in. However, the safe required not only fingerprints but also a code. So Do Yoon removed his watch and inserted a camera inside, pointing directly at the safe. What Do Yoon did not expect was that all his actions were being observed by the female bodyguard. She immediately reported this to Lawyer Han. However, even though Lawyer Han returned quickly, it was too late because Do Yoon had already left. Lawyer Han immediately checked the safe and found that its contents were intact. He sighed in relief, believing that Do Yoon hadn't taken anything. However, when he glanced at the liquor cabinet, he noticed it was disorganized. Lawyer Han had a severe obsession with orderliness, so anything that was not neat and tidy was a problem for him. Indeed, the book of accounts of the Tycoon Corporation has disappeared. At the same time, just as Do Yoon presented the ledger to Won-soo, a group from the Seoul's Procuratorate suddenly burst in. They had even prepared a search warrant in advance, indicating that someone was clearly setting them up. The conglomerate's accounts were flawless and without loopholes, but Do Yoon had deliberately brought the secret ledger here. Once these documents were seized by the prosecutor's office, Won-soo's family would undoubtedly bear the blame. A moment later, Lawyer Han began to take action. He presented fabricated evidence of a close relationship between Won-soo and Do Yoon, putting Won-soo in a passive position. Then he he let the chairman speak out, stating that she didn't care whether Won-soo had betrayed her son, as she understood very well being a woman herself. What's noteworthy is that Won-soo had the audacity to let the bodyguard steal the document. With the company under investigation, it was certain that the bodyguard was the mastermind behind it. Upon hearing this, Won-soo tried to explain that Do-yoon didn't have enough time to report to the police. However, lawyer Han skillfully used words to cast doubt on Do-yoon. He asked if Won-soo really trusted Do-yoon, warning her to be careful not to fall into his trap. This statement made Won-soo start to doubt, as their acquaintance was relatively short. Then the chairman emphasized that Do-yoon graduated from the police academy with outstanding achievements, proving he was intelligent and capable. This time, only capturing Won-soo's brother is the best evidence. Do-yoon did not capture Won-soo because she still has value to exploit. Won-soo stood up and declared that she would retrieve the ledger for lawyer Han. However, lawyer Han would never allow her to hand it over to the chairman. So immediately after Won-soo left, he met with Yong-guk's younger sister-in-law. She had been manipulated by lawyer Han because she was a greedy and cunning woman, always yearning to become the eldest daughter-in-law of the conglomerate. Upon hearing news of Won-soo's brother being investigated, she informed the reporters. The next day, news about Won-soo's brother's investigation spread rapidly across all media outlets, causing the company's stock prices to plummet. Shortly thereafter, the mother-in-law called for a shareholder meeting to find ways to resolve the crisis together. However, as supporting characters without a voice, they couldn't think of any feasible solutions. In the end, they had to rely on lawyer Han. He suggested creating a hot topic to divert public attention, specifically by publicizing Won-soo's relationship with the bodyguard. Soon after, lawyer Han brought Won-soo to meet the chairman. He then claimed that Won-soo needed to take some photos with her husband to shift the public's focus away from her brother's scandal. Lawyer Han informed Won-soo that she could go there with the bodyguard first, since Yong-guk had some matters to attend to and might be a bit late. He wanted to create an opportunity for Won-soo and Do-yoon to have some time alone together. Although Won-soo felt it was strange, she showed no signs of worry or fear. This was because, during their conversation the previous night, she had learned a secret. All the slush funds had been transferred to the chairman's account. This meant that even if the conglomerate was under investigation, her brother would not become the scapegoat. However, they were still unaware of lawyer Han's true intentions, so they decided to remain silent and observe the situation. The next day, the two went to a villa in Busan to take photos. On the way, as they passed by the lighthouse, Do-yoon wanted Won-soo to relax. He decided to stop the car. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, causing Won-soo's scarf to fly away. Do-yoon quickly grabbed the scarf and gently wrapped it around her again. This romantic gesture brought the two of them closer together. However, they had no idea that a camera was secretly recording everything. The person holding the camera was the chairman's bodyguard, but she was not here on the chairman's orders. She was sent by lawyer Han. Her true purpose was part of a sinister plot. Later that night, the female bodyguard sneaked into the villa. Although Do-yoon was very vigilant, the villa was too large, and the other bodyguards had mysteriously vanished. When he finally noticed a shadow inside the house, it was already too late. The masked bodyguard appeared right in front of Won-soo. Fortunately, Won-soo quickly used a nearby feather pillow to defend herself. This gave Do-yoon the time he needed to come to her rescue. After instructing Won-soo to escape through the window, Do-yoon charged into battle against the bodyguard. With his agile body, he initially gained the upper hand. However, the opponent unexpectedly drew a hidden weapon, severely injuring Do-yoon. The female bodyguard intended to kill him, but then she remembered lawyer Han's instructions to blame Do-yoon after killing Won-soo, so she decided to leave. Taking advantage of the moment when the bodyguard was chasing Won-soo, Do-yoon struggled to get back on his feet. All three of them ended up chasing each other to the dock, where there was only one yacht anchored. Won-soo hid inside the cabin of the boat, while the female bodyguard followed closely behind. She just needed to crouch down to spot Won-soo. Realizing she couldn't escape, Won-soo recklessly ran deeper into the boat's cabin, eventually hiding in a restroom. Just when Won-soo thought she was safe, she suddenly felt a cold draft from above. Looking up, she was horrified to see the female bodyguard standing on a flimsy wooden plank. Somehow, the yacht's strange design had left Won-soo completely trapped. Seeing that Won-soo had fainted, Do-yoon knew he couldn't hesitate any longer. He grabbed a weapon from the dining table and charged at the bodyguard. He knew that if he continued to delay, the woman he loved would lose her life. After a fierce fight, Do-yoon managed to gain the upper hand. However, instead of quickly subduing the bodyguard, he attempted to remove her mask. Seizing the opportunity, the bodyguard broke free from Do-yoon's grasp. He tried to attack her again but failed. She started counterattacking, leaving him unable to defend himself. In the end, Do-yoon mustered all his remaining strength and kicked the female bodyguard into the sea. By this point, it had been nearly 30 minutes since he was injured, and he had lost too much blood. His body was unable to move, and he was completely out of strength to bring Won-soo back. In this critical situation, he decided to unmoor the yacht and steer it out to sea, planning to wait for the rescue team to arrive the next day. Shortly after, he collapsed in the cockpit and fell into unconsciousness. Meanwhile, the news of Won-soo allegedly having an affair with her bodyguard spread rapidly online. However, instead of questioning his wife, Yong-guk stormed into his mother's office. He demanded to know why she had arranged for someone to follow Won-soo and why she was trying to disgrace their family. He asked if she truly wanted him to get divorced that badly. It turned out that the one behind the rumor was none other than his mother. Even after being confronted by her son, she still used motherhood to justify, but was refuted by Yong-guk. He declared that he would never divorce Won-soo, insisting that she wasn't as fake as his mother. It was then revealed that, from a young age, Yong-guk had witnessed his mother having an affair with lawyer Han. She had been so indifferent to his presence that it shattered his belief in love. It wasn't until he met Won-soo while doing charity work in Africa that he realized there were still many good people in the world. Even when Yong-guk proposed to Won-soo with a ring made of wood, she still accepted it. However, due to a mistake he made, they lost their child before it was born. Since then, Won-soo had become incredibly distant from him. Despite this, Yong-guk stayed quietly by her side. When Won-soo faced difficulties, he was always the most anxious for her. He even secretly arranged the funeral for her mother when she passed away. But no matter how many times Yong-guk tried to win her back, Won-soo never gave him another chance. Now his mother was trying to destroy Won-soo's reputation to drive her away, which made him lose his composure. After that, the second person Yong-guk wanted to confront wasn't his wife, but lawyer Han, the mastermind behind his mother's actions. Facing this schemer, Yong-guk didn't hold back and directly exposed two of lawyer Han's secrets. The first secret was his father's death wasn't due to a heart attack during an intimate encounter, as rumors claimed. It was actually caused by someone lawyer Han hired to eliminate him. The second secret was everything lawyer Han was doing was to prepare for his own son, Yong-guk's half-brother, to inherit the conglomerate. At that moment, lawyer Han realized that his biggest threat wasn't Won-soo but Yong-guk, who had been pretending to be clueless all this time. But now it was too late, because Yong-guk also had his limits. Once someone dared to target his wife, he would make sure they suffered, made their life a living hell. Yong-guk asked lawyer Han if he knew why his mother despised his son so much. It was because she only saw lawyer Han as a servant. Giving birth to a servant's child was the greatest shame of her life. After hearing this, lawyer Han slapped Yong-guk. Even so, Yong-guk didn't get angry. In their family, hitting someone was considered the most foolish action. It was something only failures resorted to. Yong-guk didn't stop there. He revealed that his younger brother knew all about lawyer Han's secret and his mother's affair. His younger brother was fully aware of who his real father was, but he still treated lawyer Han like a mere servant. Yong-guk's words caused lawyer Han immense pain. Before leaving, Yong-guk warned him, no matter whether it was lawyer Han or his son, if they dared to harm Won-soo again, there would be no mercy. Whatever the reason, Yong-guk vowed to eliminate both of them. After dealing with the masterminds, Yong-guk went to the wine cellar. Bodyguard Do-yoon was tied up there. Yong-guk said he wanted a fair confrontation with Do-yoon, but as soon as the head of the security team left, Yong-guk pointed a gun at Do-yoon's head. He asked how the relationship between Do-yoon and Won-soo had progressed. It was clear that as a man, he was deeply concerned about the bond between his wife and Do-yoon. However, from Do-yoon's expression, Yong-guk immediately knew that the two hadn't crossed any lines. But even though they hadn't gone too far, Yong-guk still wouldn't allow anyone to hurt Won-soo. So his next question focused on Do-yoon's true intentions for getting close to her. Do-yoon, being honest, admitted that he approached Won-soo to investigate the person who had killed his friend. That person was also the one who had attempted to assassinate Won-soo. Yong-guk firmly declared that Won-soo was his woman. He told Do-yoon that all he needed to do was protect her well. Suddenly, Won-soo appeared and asked what Yong-guk was doing. In truth, Yong-guk had no intention of killing Do-yoon, because after all, Do-yoon had protected Won-soo on several occasions. What surprised Yong-guk the most was Won-soo's reaction. When Do-yoon was threatened with a gun, her first instinct was to shield him. Won-soo then confessed that she had developed feelings for Do-yoon. However, she firmly stated that Do-yoon didn't love her back. Hearing this, Yong-guk pleaded with his wife to be rational, reminding her that Do-yoon had only approached her to avenge his friend. Won-soo's actions left Yong-guk feeling unfair, but love is rarely fair. The only comfort for Yong-guk was that Won-soo reassured him. She had never once suspected that he was behind the assassination attempt. She knew that her husband would never harm her. It was this small glimmer of trust from his wife that made Yong-guk's anger subside. Won-soo's faith in him was the most valuable thing he possessed. The embrace they shared after 5 years years of distance brought him warmth and comfort. There were less than 2 days left before the former chairman's will was to be revealed. Before passing away, he had secretly gone abroad to have the will prepared, specifying that it would be disclosed on his 70th birthday, regardless of whether he was alive or dead. While waiting for the will's reading, Lawyer Han had tried everything to get in touch with the lawyer who drafted the will. Whether through threats or bribery, his efforts were in vain, as the drafter remained unyielding. On the day the will was to be announced, the first to arrive were the youngest son and his wife, who was also the biological son of Lawyer Han. Following them were Lawyer Han and the eldest son and his wife. It seemed like a form of punishment for Lawyer Han when the drafter, speaking in English, mentioned that she would read the entire will in English. She then asked if anyone needed a translation. The chairman promptly responded in fluent English, saying that everyone understood English, so no translation was needed. Unexpectedly, the lawyer switched to Korean. That brief moment of levity quickly faded, as the contents of the will caused significant controversy. Firstly, the secret inheritance, which amounting to 18 trillion won, was revealed. The beneficiary of this fortune was none other than the charity fund named after Won Soo. The money was held in UBS Bank in Switzerland, and only Won Soo herself could withdraw it by signing in person. Shortly after this revelation, a ledger documenting all the illegal funds tied to the current chairman of the conglomerate was exposed. Upon receiving the ledger, Lawyer Han immediately called the police and ordered the chairman's bodyguard to assassinate Won Soo's brother. However, what Han didn't anticipate was that Do Yoon had captured the entire incident on video. The female bodyguard was also stabbed in the back by Do Yoon. Although she managed to escape, as soon as Do Yoon returned home, he hurried to track her down. He even brought a stun gun with him. Since she was the chairman's personal bodyguard, she clearly possessed strong combat skills. But the wound on her back had significantly weakened her. After just 2 rounds, Do Yoon pinned her against a door and tore open her shirt to check for the injury. Once he confirmed that she was indeed the assassin, Do Yoon didn't hesitate to deliver a strong blow to her head, leaving her dazed and unable to resist. Meanwhile, the chairman was arrested by the police for embezzlement. Witnessing the scene unfold, Lawyer Han stood to the side, trying to conceal his inner excitement. However, everything happened so quickly that just as he was about to celebrate, he saw the female bodyguard being arrested by the police. Fearing that she would reveal him as the mastermind, Lawyer Han rushed to the backyard, digging up a metal box buried underground. Inside was a gold bar, used by the youngest son to kill the former chairman. The gold bar not only had the blood of the former chairman, but also the fingerprints of the lawyer's son. Lawyer Han then brought the gold bar to the police station to meet with the chairman. The chairman was irritated and said she'd been waiting for hours and wondered why Han had taken so long to arrive. Faced with the chairman's complaints, Han said nothing but placed the gold bar on the table. He shamelessly declared that this was evidence proving the youngest son had killed his own father. If the chairman didn't want his youngest son to end up in prison, she would have to confess to ordering the hit on Won Soo's brother. These few short sentences contained shocking revelations that left the chairman in disbelief. At that moment, she realized that the person who had tried multiple times to kill Won Soo, the one who had hidden the truth about her husband's death, and the one who had framed her and sent her to jail, was none other than Lawyer Han. And yet, she had even borne a son for him. The chairman asked if he had lost his mind. However, Lawyer Han calmly countered with a question. He asked if the chairman wanted to publicly reveal their relationship. Did she want the world to know she had a child with a servant? His words shattered the chairman completely. To protect her son and maintain her own dignity, in the end, the chairman patiently pleaded guilty to the crime of hiring a murderer. At the same time, Young-guk pulled his younger brother's wife into a room. Without saying a word, he opened 2 safes. Inside were numerous gold bars and bonds. Young-guk stated that all of it was for his younger sister-in-law. Her goal was simple. That was to marry into a wealthy family and enjoy a luxurious life. However, when faced with the immense fortune before her, she felt confused. The 100 billion won represented the money Young-guk had accumulated over many years. It was everything he had at present. By giving it all to her, Young-guk wanted her to take good care of his son. He also indicated that he anticipated danger. When his younger sister-in-law asked if he didn't feel it was unfair, Young-guk admitted that while he was reluctant, the reality was what it was. At the same time, Young-guk's younger brother was being pressured by his wife to get a divorce. The reason was not only that the chairman's mother had been arrested, but also because he had outlived his usefulness. He had also used his wife's family money to purchase a large number of company shares. Of course, Young-guk's younger brother was not simple either. He tore up the divorce papers in front of everyone and declared that he would seize the inheritance today. After saying this, he drove to the villa. Upon entering the house, he ordered all the servants to leave. Then he went down to the basement to retrieve a hunting rifle. At that moment, Lawyer Han saw the servants leaving leaving, he immediately called the butler to find out that his son was about to lose control. After hanging up, he rushed downstairs. Won-soo was about to go out. Coincidentally, Jungkook also went downstairs to get wine. At that moment, Jungkook's brother appeared behind Jungkook. Won-soo was about to leave when she heard a gunshot. Luckily, the bullet only lodged in the wall. Just then, Lawyer Han arrived, but Jungkook was not afraid. He had already arranged everything for the two of them, Lawyer Han and his son, to pay the price. This was also the last thing he would do for Won-soo. Lawyer Han instructed his son to hand him the gun, but the son insisted he could handle it himself. Lawyer Han insisted that he should do the shooting. This statement made Jungkook's expression turn serious. He seriously looked at Lawyer Han. He knew he was a cruel man who would not hesitate to pull the trigger. On the other hand, his brother was mentally unstable. Jungkook didn't want Won-soo to face any danger. When Won-soo ran into the villa, his younger brother had already picked up the gun. Moments later, a gunshot rang out, leaving everyone stunned. Jungkook had been shot in the left chest and was certain he wouldn't survive. But he still tried to stand up, wanting his brother to take responsibility for his crime. Seeing this, Won-soo rushed to Jungkook and called out to him. Hearing her call him so affectionately filled Jungkook with happiness. It had been 5 years since he last heard this after their child had passed away. However, this was merely a moment of clarity before death. After apologizing, Jungkook would never regained consciousness. Witnessing this, Lawyer Han instructed his son to erase the surveillance camera and quickly leave the villa. He then called the police and wiped his fingerprints off the gun, hoping to frame Won-soo. However, when the police arrived, they found the villa's gate locked. This indicated that Lawyer Han's son was still inside. When Do-yoon arrived, Won-soo immediately informed him that the culprit was her younger brother-in-law. All the house staff in the villa were mobilized to search for Lawyer Han's son. The person who discovered something unusual was Do-yoon, as this was the female bodyguard's room. Before being taken away, her wardrobe was left open, and indeed the one hiding inside was Lawyer Han's son. Do-yoon said they needed to keep the gunpowder on his hands. He asked the staff to bring him 2 nylon bags. This type of shotgun, when fired, will release gunpowder that sticks to the hand, serving as important evidence to identify the culprit. Based on the surveillance camera footage outside the villa, when the gunshot rang out, Won-soo was standing at the door and could not possibly be the perpetrator. Consequently, Won-soo was released, while Lawyer Han's son was detained. However, the real mastermind, Lawyer Han, remained unharmed. There was no evidence linking him to the illegal funds of the corporation or the assassination attempt on Won-soo. Moreover, since none of the generational heirs of the corporation could take over, the shareholders elected Lawyer Han as chairman. Lawyer Han challenged Do-yoon, asking what he could do to him. Do-yoon retorted that he should just wait and see. The reason Do-yoon could be so confident was that after Won-soo's elder brother passed away, he received a USB from his younger sister. This USB was said to contain evidence of Lawyer Han's falsification of documents. However, this kind of evidence could not be considered valid in court. Therefore, Do-yoon snuck into Lawyer Han's house and placed the USB in the safe, then reported to the police. Unfortunately, due to not knowing the password, the police could only take the entire safe away. As a result, it was only yesterday that they managed to open the safe and retrieve the USB. Consequently, before Lawyer Han could celebrate his new position as chairman, the police arrived and arrested him for document forgery. They also began investigating the incident involving the female bodyguard attacking others after handling the records. From then on, all wrongdoers faced legal consequences. However, Lawyer Han's sentence wouldn't be lengthy. Meanwhile, Won-soo's mother-in-law took advantage of her bail to visit her youngest son in prison. She told him that she had seen the gold bar and warned him not to trust Lawyer Han, explaining that the gold bar was definitely a weapon. The youngest son immediately understood how his mother had already known about the situation. She recounted how she had been coerced by Lawyer Han, which caused the youngest son to lose all trust in his biological father. The next day, while Lawyer Han was reading in the yard, his son suddenly approached him. Although his son had choked Lawyer Han, he still wanted to confirm what his mother had said. Because the confrontation dragged on, the police was in time to separate the two. Now there was a son filled with hatred in prison, and the days ahead for Lawyer Han would surely be filled with suffering. The question remained whether he could survive until his release. Meanwhile, Do-yoon submitted his resignation to Won-soo. After all, he had achieved his goal in coming here. Moreover, until death, that Jungkook still protected Won-soo. Do-yoon realized that he and Won-soo would never have a future together. Therefore, the two parted amicably. The film ends here. Thank you all for watching, goodbye, and see you in the next videos.